This is something that we're often asked. Is there a left-wing Christianity?
Ooh. So there's two ways of thinking. So let me just address something first that I think is going on with a lot of these questions. There are a lot of people who say, I don't like the way you speak because it favours a conservative view of the world. And as Christians, we are not left or right. And so the things we say and do should reflect a bit of both. And we shouldn't be bound to one side or the other. I say to those people, well, hang on, you've just done the very thing you've accused me of doing. You've started with politics. And you've said, here's left and here's right. I'm going to go down the middle because that's being a good Christian. No. Forget the politics for a second. Ask yourself, what does the Scripture say? Ask yourself, what is the teaching of the Bible? What is the way of Christ on this matter? And if it happens to sound conservative, well, all right, so what? In this age, it'll be conservative. In the next, it'll probably be radical because we're going to go through a big cycle, aren't we? I would just sound caution on that. I would say don't try and shape what you say and do by a political paradigm. Shape what you say and do biblically first. Now, that's very hard to do, though, because we live in a world in which these paradigms are real. But I would say the more familiar you are with Scripture and the text of Scripture and what it says, the more you will be shaped in a truly biblical way. And so I don't really care much what side of the political spectrum I land on with a particular view. I will say this, though, I could probably say something similar about the right, but I haven't thought it through enough. But certainly there is an element of what's coming up on the left which is directly opposed to God. What do I mean? I mean, if you look particularly at the elements of what they call woke, most of these elements actually teach false theology about creation. False theology about all the things that God put together and set up in creation itself and called very good, and therefore serve as the blueprint for His will for the world today. Like marriage, like family and life and children, like sexuality, like gender identity, not just sex, biological sex, but gender expression as well. It's all there in creation when it was very good. Also, actually, the issue of even work, for example, there was work in paradise, and work is good. Marxism was the first thing to attack that, and then we have the new Marxism, which attacks all the others. These things are non-negotiable standards which Scripture reveals to us very clearly, not just for God's people, but all people. And Romans 1 teaches very clearly that an attack on these things, and they pick out the example of sexuality in Romans 1, where the Apostle Paul says that it's against, he says you've got the revelation of God in creation, and then you've got that which is against creation. In his case, he points out sexuality. Why? Because our bodies are designed in the creation to be for a certain design for sexuality, and people think they can mess that up. And so he gives that example, but it's the same with all the others, with the gender stuff and everything. And Romans 1 teaches us very clearly that's an attack on the Creator Himself. And in fact, it's putting yourself in the seat of the Creator and arrogating to yourself the power of the Creator, and it cannot last, and it's deeply destructive. So I would say, no, you can't be left in that sense and seriously call yourself a Christian, because what you've just said is, God's revealed word has really no serious impact on my life or the way I view the world, which is not being a true disciple of Jesus, because in John chapter 8 he says, if you are truly my disciples, you abide in my word, and you know the truth, and the truth sets you free.